Alpha to Omega, pre-reading chapter 35, The Athenians Go Too Far, part 2, adapted from Thucydides' Peloponnesian War, book 6. I'm just going to read the introduction. When unconfirmed reports of the Athenian expedition reach Syracuse, an assembly is convened to discuss the situation. Hermocrates, one of the speakers at the assembly, insists that the threat from the Athenians is very real and gives the following advice to his fellow Syracusans. Okay, so this is a speech. That's the first thing we want to make note of, that that type of talking has a particular context. So picking up from chapter 35 and the new grammar that we learned in chapter 35 dealing with the subjunctive, we can expect subjunctives, can't we? So I'm going to highlight what you should pay attention to as far as subjunctive uses. Okay, you can see what he's doing here as he's encouraging the crowd, right? So I'm highlighting all these subjunctives. I think that might be it for this first paragraph. No, here's another one down here. Okay, what do you notice they all have in common? Right? What use of the subjunctive is this? Think about it. It's a speech. It's a speech. And he's trying to persuade people to a certain course of action. All right? Now, let's go to a green highlighter, or a different color at least. Maybe we'll go pink. And let's take a look at all the participles that are in this section. Okay, so here's one. Here's another one. Here's a third one. Here, another participle. Well, dinotoi is not really. Here's another one. Okay, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. Okay, so that's basically it for this first paragraph, right? Those are the participles that you have to pay attention to. So now, participles have to agree in gender, number, and case with their subject. All right? Now, I'm going to talk about this word right here. It's going to pop up a couple of times, right? Presbyte. Now, the Scottish Church, the Presbyterians, they get their name from this word. The word basically means an elder, like an elder statesman. Here, it's going to be more than the nuance of envoys, official representatives, ambassadors of the people of Syracuse that they're sending. Okay? So now as I look down here, we kind of have covered the most important things. Okay, so in yellow, again, these are going to be your subjunctive uses, and in purple here, the participles. So if you nail those down, then you shouldn't have too much trouble with the reading. Now, another thing in this particular reading that you need to pay attention to are the tenses. All right? So, what tense is poiesuntai? What tense is genesuntai? What tense is ethelesusin? Which goes with this infinitive, by the way. Also, ophelesusin. What tenses are these? Okay, and here, kinesusin. what tenses. They're all the same tense. They're all the same tense. Make sure you translate them that way. All right. So now you can see what I've done here. I have just we'll go, I think, with a green pen here today. All right. So you can see I've just highlighted, since this is a speech, there's going to be a lot of structure to it. In other words, he's going to use the same kind of constructions again and again. So if you can get down these three things here, how these participles are being used, right? And what mood we have here, these subjunctives, and how they're being used. Okay? Pay attention to the fact that they're all first person, plural. That helps you. And if you nail down these tenses, which are all the same, all right, then you'll be able to follow the flow of thought. All right? Okay. So this first sentence, now back to the top, we're just chunking it out here. Pretty straightforward. Obviously, prepositional phrase, Sicily. Here are my direct objects, right? Here's a break in thought, right here. And we have a te, right? And going on. Now, normally ice doesn't pick up an accent. You can see that right here. But because the te is unaccented, it does. So this is just a prepositional phrase, right? It's the same one, just it's making a difference between the Sicilians and the rest of Sicily, all right? Notice how we're using hos right here, okay? The condinas is koinos. Here, kai also. Now, just a word about the Italians. Now, don't think Romans, okay, because the Romans just really aren't super organized at this point. They live up by Rome, but what he's talking about are the Greek-speaking Italians in the southern half of Italy. The southern half of Italy was actually called Magna Graecia, Greater Greece, even up into the Roman period, right? And so that's who he's talking about with these native Italians. He's basically talking about Greek-speaking people who live in Italy, all right? Here we have that word simach again. Now, what do we have here? Aite, aite. You learned that a couple of chapters ago, all right? So we have simakian and simakoi, okay? All right, so in this particular sentence, you just have to follow the flow of thought. Let's try to get them on our side, or at least not get them on the other side, okay? That's kind of the thought of this sentence. Now, the Carthaginians, right? They have settlements on the island of Sicily. And the Carthaginians are ai phobomenoi tous Athenaius. Okay, that's how he describes the Carthaginians. Okay. Here, this is about the same thing as aita, aita, but we have three of them in a row. And these are all adverbial uses here. Okay. Now, this phrase, your books in the notes gives it, but I think a very loose translation is one way or another, right? From one of a certain method or style in some kind of way, right? Make sure you catch the tenses on these. Now, dinatoi, okay, this is okay, you know the verb dinamai, to be able. We kind of have a weird construction here, but the malista, the adverb, modifies that. It's what we call a periphrastic construction, right? Now, why are they able to? Okay, because this is what they have. Right? Now, there's that word presbyte again. Presbyte, I missed one. Ambassadors or elder statesmen. The Lacedaemonians are the Spartans. And at Corinth, right? So the ice covers both that and that. Well, actually, we have ice repeated here. Now, here's a verb of asking. So what is that? What does that introduce? And here we have a bookended phrase. But it's really pretty straightforward, guys, isn't it? So you just group things, but if you can just look at the participles and the subjunctives and the tenses of those verbs, and remember that this is a speech. Think of him making a speech in the Senate chamber or something like that. So in the final paragraph, it's kind of the conclusion of Hermocrates' speech. And right away we have this word here, paisthesthe. Be persuaded, or persuade yourselves, or something like that. It's kind of an imperative, but what he wants them to do is just think about this. Okay, be persuaded by what I've been saying here. Okay, remember what hati or hos plus the superlative means? Okay, and here another imperative, same thing here, be persuaded. Now he's going to explain what he means, and it's kind of a philosophical point. Okay, on, okay, what case, what case, what case, what case, what case. That's right, you know what kind of construction that is. Now, here we have a neuter here. So the host that is mentioned in the vocab list as if, epikindinu. Epikindinu. So he's kind of making a comparison that it's prudent to prepare for war in times of peace, but especially when there's danger, is kind of the thrust of what he's saying here. Right? Again, as he's concluding his speech, he's saying there's a sense of urgency here. Hati tachista eiston palamon. Hati tachista eiston palamon. Paraskoiadzeste. So, and in this point right here, starting with this genitive absolute, it's just kind of a philosophical point. It's better, if it's better during time of peace, well then certainly during time of danger, we ought to do this. Okay, and now his word of warning at the end. Okay, employo, on the way really means under sail. They've already sailed. Okay, tut oi oida, tut oi oida. This I know well, or for certain, you might say. So Hermocrates speaks to the Syracusan assembly, rousing them to take action because the Athenians are on their way and they need to prepare. This ends the pre-reading for chapter 35.